6 p.m. in Kribi in the Ocean Division of the South region of Cameroon, same time in Duala, Cameroon's economic capital city. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining Equinoxe television on our primetime newscast. We are live from Duala, Cameroon's economic capital city. It is with me, for me, I'm Sean Sander. In our top stories tonight, as Cameroon inches closer to the International Women's Day, a gloomy reality looms. 212 women lost their lives to femicide in just 3 years, with most perpetrators walking free across Cameroon. Prominent voices like Barrister Charlotte Chakunte are breaking this silence and demanding urgent reforms to stem this tide of violence. Can justice finally be done? Is a question for you in this edition of the news. Plus, Duala residents are feasting on affordable eats as food prices plummet in local markets. Plantains, tomatoes, garlics and onions are going to bargain prices in markets across the economic capital city as harvest overlaps supply across the country. In this edition of the news, we shall be taking you to key markets of the city of Duala, but also to talk sports to say that Coach Paco David of Cameroon's indomitable Lions is engaging with some 30 local-based players who have kicked off training at the military stadium in the nation's political capital city, Yaoundé, vying for the top spot in the indomitable Lions squad. Coach Paco David's selection are gearing up for the team's upcoming matches, with some players eyeing a coveted spot in the national team. Meantime, the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has announced a change in the start date for the African Women's Nations Cup, scheduled for later this month in the Kingdom of Morocco. This and more will be yours. Thanks for joining us. You are just joining us. This is the primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. With me, for me, Armstrong Sander. We live from Duala. Duala is Cameroon's economic capital city, Equinoxe Central News Desk. Now, we're starting with one of our lead stories to say that Barrister Charlotte Chakunte, like several other human rights defenders and female rights defenders in Cameroon, are raising their voices out of the silence to denounce the alarming impunity surrounding femicide in Cameroon, where some 212 women were killed in just 3 years, with most perpetrators enjoying freedom. She calls for urgent reforms to break this vicious cycle of violence as days narrow to the International Women's Day edition 2026. Details with Immaculate Fogwe in the following report.
Cameroon is grappling with an alarming rise in femicide, with at least 212 women killed in the past 3 years. Human rights defenders attribute this trend to widespread impunity, questioning the effectiveness of the justice system in protecting women.
Les sanctions existent depuis toujours, notamment.
According to Barrister Chakute, penalties exist, notably Article 144 and 278 of the Penal Code. She notes that they are not proportionate to the gravity of the crimes. Charges often hinge on the perpetrator's intent, leaving room for leniency. According to her, it's a matter of interpretation. Barrister Chakunte further decries corruption, weak penalties and resulting impunity, which create a favorable environment for offenders. It's a system where corruption and impunity reigns, and it's become a vicious cycle. I would like to denounce a judicial system with inadequate responses to the gravity of these crimes. While the fight for justice continues for many women killed, the sad reality looms. Who will be the next victim?
And just as I announced, civil society actors are joining legal minds like Barrister Charlotte Chakunte to speak against what they qualify as a disturbing impunity that is propagating femicide in Cameroon. They say that this has contributed to increasing number of females who've been killed, with the number standing at 212 so far. The civil society actors and legal minds are reflecting on the theme choosing for the Women's Day celebration, that is rights, justice, action for all women and girls. For legal experts like Mafugdo, this theme is to call for actions against perpetrators of acts against women. She was speaking to our reporter Sadiq Chakocho in the following report.
As the 41st edition of the International Women's Day approaches, civil society actors and legal minds raise concern on the theme chosen for this year 2026. To Barrister Clémence Mafetgo,
la vulnérabilité des femmes au point où aujourd'hui on assiste à un nombre croissant de féminicides.
The International Women's Day, under the theme Rights, Justice, Action for All Women and Girls, launches a call to action to dismantle structural barriers to fair justice, just as discriminatory laws indicate legal protections and harmful social practices and norms that erode the rights of women and girls.
Nous avons des crises politiques dans les différentes parties du Cameroun qui font en sorte que les femmes soient de plus en plus vulnérables.
She adds that right now, in 2026, women enjoy only 64% of the legal rights that men enjoy globally.
Pour qu'il y ait une effectivité de respect des droits des filles et des femmes au Cameroun, il faudrait qu'il y ait à tous les niveaux une action.
Barrister Clémence Mafetgo argues that women and girls continue to face persistent obstacles, even resistance, that hinder their access to fair justice in the country.
Des cellules d'écoute, par exemple, une ligne verte peut être mise sur place qui peut être utilisée en cas de violence basée sur le genre.
Talking about action, the Legal Mind says action is a powerful call for all stakeholders, whether governmental, private or from civil society.
Le mot action qui est intégré dans la thématique de la GIF 2026 est relative aux actions, si je peux me permettre la tautologie, de ce qu'il y a lieu de faire pour que les droits des femmes soient respectés.
To her, it is about working collectively to ensure that the law translates into tangible benefits and everyday realities for women and girls.
Que ce soit ses parents adoptifs ou ses parents biologiques ou juridiques, les parents doivent veiller à l'éducation des enfants. Et puisque nous parlons de la GIF et plus particulièrement de la jeune fille,
The International Women's Day 2026 in Cameroon is therefore intended as a platform for mobilization to build a future where right, justice and action converge to ensure that all women and all girls can prosper.
And there is some good news for women, especially those of the city of Duala, as Duala residents are feasting on affordable eats as food prices plummet in local markets. Plantains, tomatoes, garlics and onions are going for bargain prices due to a bumper in the harvest and oversupply witnessed in the city of Duala, surprisingly. While households across the city are stocking up, traders are feeling the pinch. It is a lose-lose situation for us. A seller in the city of Duala indicated to Equinoxe Television's team of reporters and technicians. The trader went further to say that they would rather slash prices than watch their produce spoil. They are hoping that better days come ahead with the new harvest season. Innocent has got more in the following report.
For some time now, food items have witnessed a drop in the prices on the local markets, providing households the opportunity to purchase in bulk. Plantains, tomatoes, garlics and onions are available in great quantities at giveaway prices in some markets, we thought, in the economic capital city Duala. Plantain and tomatoes are witnessing their peak periods, reason why they are found in gogo in markets.
C'est l'abondance, on ne peut rien faire. C'est la période du plantain qui est là maintenant. Il y a 1000 francs, 1500, 2000, 2500.
Il y a les clients, mais il y a l'abondance, le plantain.
Supply, he says, is more than demand, actually.
Ça fait que il y a plus de la marchandise que les acheteurs.
Le panier de tomates, c'est 2000. 1500, quand c'est trop cher, c'est 3000.
As concerns onions brought in from northern Cameroon, it is sold cheap because it is Ramadan and the business is slow there.
Maintenant là, c'est le Ramadan, il n'y a pas le marché, c'est pour cela qu'on vend ça moins cher.
On vendait à 75 000, 80 000.
When it is not the season, we sell a bag between 75 and 80,000 francs. But since this is the harvest season, we sell at 28 to 35,000 francs based on the quality.
32 000, voire même 35 000, 30 000, 28 000.
Donc la meilleure qualité quand même c'est 35 000 qu'on vend.
It is also understood that prices of these abundant perishable foodstuffs are very low to avoid decay, with the sellers incurring huge losses.
Quand il y a resté, on fait tout et pour tout pour liquider. Pour le plantain qu'on pouvait vendre à 3 000, quand ça mûrit, on est obligé de lancer même à 1 500.
Comme par exemple ce qu'il y a là derrière, là on a encore liquidé. Ça n'a pas de prix, ça n'a pas de prix, à 1 500.
While it is anticipated a bag of onions will even drop to 18,000 francs in April, that is not the case with plantains, whose price will rise due to scarcity.
À partir du mois d'avril, fin avril, début mai, il y en aura plus. Ça serait difficile de trouver le plantain. Donc c'est la production. Le plus petit régime va coûter au minimum 2,000 francs.
Sellers of plantains and tomatoes in particular lament that they are unable to generate income again, as households prefer to buy now from suppliers in bulk and stock in their homes.
Nous on paye aussi, on vient. Les femmes de la maison pas aussi payer pour aller mettre à la maison. Nous on va encore vendre à qui?
If these sellers wish for one thing, it is for the peak season to be over, for scarcity to set in, so that the prices would rise on the local market.
On to something else, the New Town Airport neighborhood of the city of Duala is faced with a chronic insecurity situation marked by assault, activities of armed bandits, and the phenomenon of the works of gang members operating, especially in the form of drug dealing, particularly at nightfall, a situation which is frightening in local inhabitants who express their worries and concerns to our reporter Cedric Chakuchu, who went visiting.
Residents of the New Town Airport neighborhood in the Duala 2 subdivision have been living in fear for the past 8 months. Moving from Texaco to Elf neighborhood has become risky at night and during the day. One of the causes of the rise in insecurity is the proliferation of the buying and selling of drugs. There are some individuals who often come here to smoke. Sometimes they come with women and at times rape children. Before, when there were shops, people could easily buy and we didn't have any problem. But since there are no street lighting, we see all sorts of things. Let's not forget that we are on a business road. 8 months ago, this area was filled with shops and business centers which helped the daily lives of residents. What are we going to do when we move? Before, there were shops here that allowed us to feed ourselves, but with the insecurity here, we fled to find another place to sell our goods. Due to this insecurity, business people who used to sell here were forced to leave.
Ça fait très mal parce que c'est exactement 9 mois aujourd'hui, ils ont cassé et puis jusqu'à présent sans réponse et nous sommes là comme ça.
For some residents, the indifference of the security forces worsens the situation. Before, a simple phone call was enough for police officers to come to our rescue. Since the insecurity has reached a certain level, when we call them after an assault, they don't even react.
Vraiment, si la mairie pour nous trouver la solution, vraiment c'est très bon pour nous qui sont dans le quartier.
The local population continues to wait for the authorities to finally react to this situation, which risks escalating.
And besides drug dealing and consumption, land disputes constitute a primary source of social tensions, violence and insecurity across Cameroon as well, often pitting communities against each other, local populations against the state, and farmers against nomadic traders or herders across the country. These conflicts are deeply rooted in a complex and overlapping land tenure systems that combine statutory law with customary practices, resulting in frequent and often violent clashes, as Babla Jonathan tells us in the following report.
Through this ministerial decision, the Minister of State Properties, Surveys and Land Tenure of Cameroon announced a land certificate due to irregularities that violate private state property and national land. About a month later, the same land title is rehabilitated on grounds that the information that led to the earlier decision was inexact. The second decision will be overturned 2 months later.
Plus globalement, on parlera de corruption.
Political analyst Dr. Jean Jaurès Nkapu highlights corruption as the main cause of such forward and backward moves, but land law expert and civil administrator Dr. Asongwe Cletus attributes the situation to human errors and the gap between the manual and digital age.
The procedures involved in the issuance of a land certificate are handled by human beings, and that in itself is an avenue for errors. Every human endeavor must have errors, but now it becomes a problem when it is exaggerated. We have situations of land certificates that were issued in the early years, land certificates that were issued before 2010. Those land certificates were issued manually, and so there was no computerized system to retrace them. And now with the new geodesic system that has been put in place, land certificates today are computerized in such a way that you cannot do a land certificate on a space where a land certificate was issued and computerized. But now we find situations where those olden days land certificates issued maybe in the early 2000s, that were not computerized, generally are difficult to be retraced.
The multiple land disputes, especially in major urban centers where land is under significant pressure, have called into question the value of a land certificate in Cameroon.
Because it's an instrument that can be used to obtain loans as guarantee for loans and others. But like you rightly said, we have a few cases. We have cases here and there where the land certificate is withdrawn or cancelled. Those are things that are also provided for by the law. There are conditions which are supposed to be met for a land title to be valid. And so when those conditions are not met, the land certificate is not valid and therefore can be withdrawn or can be cancelled.
Concerning the fact that beginning April 1, 2026, the Cameroonian Ministry of State Properties, Surveys and Land Tenure has authorized third-degree traditional chiefs to issue provisional documents recognizing land occupation. It says the documents to be issued by traditional leaders is not synonymous with and does not substitute a land certificate.
That document is not a land certificate itself because the law still remains the same. That text still remains that land certificates are the only certification of property right in Cameroon.
He adds that the new document aims to secure customary land rights and reduce disputes. In the meantime, the traditional leaders are now awaiting accompanying measures to facilitate implementation.
An effort are currently being made by the National Union of Diamond and Gold Buying Office promoters to combat illegal gold mining in Cameroon's East region. According to the national president, Chinese expatriates are operating with law enforcement protection without authorization in most parts of this region. Immaculate Folk has got more in the following report.
In the mining site of Tapari and Bojeni in the Lom and Jerem division, East region of Cameroon, illegal gold mining is thriving. Chinese expatriates are operating with the protection of law enforcement without any documents or authorization to conduct their activities. This intense illegal mining activity has been ongoing for a year now. Residents are living with the consequences of these open-pit mines, and the state is losing nearly a ton of undeclared gold. The union highlights serious consequences in a press release dated February 13th. The accused include foreign operators as well as Tsunami, which the union accuses of playing a double game. They suggest these solutions that can improve the mining sector in the East region. The union is calling on the defense minister to demand proof of authorization from operators and provide protection only to those who are legit. We are equally calling on the Minister of Justice to hold illegal miners accountable. Meanwhile, artisanal miners continue to suffer under the dictate of foreign operators in an environment where nature has been ravished.
And the Cameroon's mining sector is moving from blueprint blueprints to bulldozers, with enormous efforts being recorded in the Lobe mining site that's in the Ocean Division of the South region of Cameroon and in most areas of that part of the country. Technicians, experts say that it is important, qualifying it as a pillar of Cameroon's economic transformation. However, these sectors and activities are also being faced by enormous challenges that have been outlined by Babla Jonathan and a host of experts in the following report.
The South region of Cameroon is entering a new phase in its mining story as long-planned iron ore projects begin to take shape after years of delays and shifting partnerships. As exploitation gains momentum, the Grand Zambia and Lobe mining projects continue to shape the country's emerging industrial landscape. At Grand Zambia, Cameroonian company G-Stones Resources is accelerating extraction and treatment operations across a surface area of 498 kilometers square. The concession spans 3 subdivisions: Lokunje, Akomde, and Bipindi.
We are ready at this specific stage, producing with a 1 million tons unit. Now, we will be producing 7 million tons of iron concentrates.
In Lobe, the construction phase of the iron ore mining project is well on course. The Chinese company Sinosteel is fast-tracking mining operations across a concession of 138 kilometers square.
We are far in that phase of construction. For the mining area, you have seen the iron ore is cleared now, ready to be taken. Now we are in the industrial area. You have the beneficiation plant under construction. You have any facilities under construction you can see in this area. And then you have the living area you have seen, which can take more than 1,000 workers. At the same time, you can see our headquarters here is almost completed. So we are working day and night to reach the deadline fixed by the law by the head of state.
Another dimension of the ongoing mineral extraction, treatment, transportation and commercialization processes is local transformation.
The ambition here is to transform locally all our production. We are planning to produce 7 million tons of iron concentrates by year 2027. We have already put in place the, let's say, foundation stone at Fifinda for the steel making plant. We will be then producing there 500,000 tons per year of billets that are raw material for rolling mills that we have in Cameroon. And then at the port of Kribi, we will be producing 2 million tons of billets that we will sell worldwide. The ambition is having at least 20,000 direct employees by the year 2027, by end of the year 2027.
In the meantime, the project's evolution is slowed down by 2 major obstacles.
We have a very critical problem of the power challenge. You know, the first combustible we should have wanted to have is the natural gas, but the availability of the gas with SNH seems not to be easy. It's even difficult. So we have to find another way to have, because we have heavy fuel here, but we cannot make commercial production with heavy fuel. Up to now, according to the law, we must have the long-term renting contract in that area given by the head of state to enjoy the land. We have not yet signed any of the one, but we are investing in the land where we have not yet full right for investor is not very comfortable.
Both projects are seen as pillars of Cameroon's long-term industrial strategy, promising jobs, regional development, and increased export revenues.
That was Babla Jonathan with the 2 major challenges that are testing the pace and public trust of Cameroon's iron ore mining, taking as case study the Grand Zambia and Lobe project sites in the south region of Cameroon. However, it is said that the projects are moving from blueprint to bulldozers with noticeable advancement, and experts are saying that these are major pillars for Cameroon's industrial transformation. Now we take you to sport, as we told you in our top stories that 30 local-based players have kicked off training at the military stadium in the nation's political capital city, Yaoundé, vying for a spot in the indomitable Lion squad. Coach Pago David's selections are gearing up for the team's upcoming matches, with some players eyeing a coveted spot. Meantime, the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has announced a change in the start date for the African Women's Nations Cup, scheduled to take place later this month in the Northern Kingdom of Morocco. We have details with Semat Njikan Gabriel.
Starting this Friday, the trainer of the senior men's national team, Pago David, will begin the search of new blood into the indomitable Lions den. It is for this reason that 30 home-based players will begin a 5-day camp in Yaoundé. The players that dominate the list of Pago David are those from Gazelle FA of Garoua, Dynamo of Duala, and PWG of Bamenda, amongst others. The camp will be an opportunity for home-based players to impress the technical bench. The absence of certain high-profile domestic players will certainly fuel some discussions within the camp. Pago David will use the camp to assess the depth, build a cohesion, and get players who are capable when called up. The 5-day camp is expected to center on tactical organization, physical conditioning, and internal assessment of matches as the indomitable Lions continue to rebuild. This camp will also be an occasion for the coach to prepare for the FIFA series this month against Australia and China on March 27 and 31st. respectively. The Confederation of African Football, in a statement released on Thursday, said it was rescheduling the tournament to July due to unforeseen circumstances. The tournament, which this year doubles up as a qualifier for the 2027 Women's FIFA World Cup in Brazil, was scheduled to be held from 17 March to 3rd April. Morocco was set to stage a third successive edition of the finals, but reports of a potential hosting change had created anxiety amongst players and fans in recent weeks. Speculation about the country's willingness to host the tournament increased after the poor scenes that played out in the 2025 men's AFCON final, which Morocco lost 1-0 to Senegal in a dramatic match at the Moulay Abdallah Sports Complex in Rabat. CAF said the decision to postpone the tournament was taken to ensure the success of this important women's competition. The tournament will now be held from 25 July to 16 August this year. WAFCON is the second continental tournament to be moved at short notice in the past 14 months. CAF postponed the 2024 African Nations Championship just 18 days before it was due to start in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda on February 1, 2025.
And before we take leave of you, we'll tell you that the Middle East crisis has entered the dangerous phase in the war opposing Israel, the United States of America, and Iran, with a serious humanitarian crisis and massive displacement in places like Lebanon, with also key access to places like Gaza blocked and causing a disturbing humanitarian situation as clashes intensify in most parts, with bombings and destruction continuously recorded. We shall be coming back to updates in subsequent editions of News on Equinoxe Television. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we had time for as far as news is concerned this Friday. We thank you immensely for your keen attention. We urge you to stay in the company of interesting programs on your #1 television network, Equinoxe. Now, rendezvous for this edition will be on Monday at same time on same frequency. Meantime, our next edition of News Today will be in the French language. Goodbye.